Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I am here recording with Glenn Willis and Tyler Jones on a Monday evening as the second round series kickoff. But still time for plenty more Hawks post-mortem because there's a lot of off-season work to do. Um, I guess kind of one of the things I want to know is just like deal with some of the big roster questions. For starters, like what are they going to do with somebody like Buddy Hield? Is it just a foregone conclusion on that one? So he's under contract for next year,
It's got a
but
partial guarantee.
it's only a partial guarantee. So they're just going to end up waiving him, correct?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, would he come back on a vet minimum? I mean, that's what he is right now, basically, a guy who should play on a vet minimum. I mean, there's a lot of positivity and leadership there where there's value, but I think you have to evaluate the roster and say, is that what we're going to prioritize with one of our roster spots? The guy who's not going to play much, but brings a lot of experience and leadership to his place on the team. So it just depends on do they end up using both draft picks? If they use both draft picks, it might be harder to keep someone like Buddy on the 15-man roster, right? So there's a lot to figure out, and I know we're like a week away, roughly a week away from the draft lottery, and to see kind of where the picks fall. But I mean, everyone seems to love him and appreciate kind of the vibes that he brings and such. But is that worth one of your roster spots? That's a decision that ONC and company have to make, in my view.
Uh, he's probably gone. Only way I see they may keep him is just to trade him. So they might not waive him right away, but I'd be pretty surprised if in October he's still on the roster. I don't think he fits where the Hawks are going, defensively in particular. And so I just think the Hawks, and like he didn't play at all basically since he got there. Uh, so I would suspect that he's just not going to be on the team next year, primarily because he does. I don't think he would have a role anyways. And he's probably still he would probably want to be off the team as well. So like I just think it aligns for both parties to move on, but I could see him being traded. Like I wouldn't rule that out. So they might keep him to trade him. So like I don't like my thought is like I don't think Buddy's going to be like a day one cut. I think they're going to hold on to his contract until they figure out what they want to do with him.
Yeah, it's like a good tradable size when when you talk about the actual contract and not just the amount for which it's guaranteed. Corey Kispert, like it, they spent the whole season since he got here trying to make it work with him. They've got him under contract for 2 more years at like 13 million plus each year. A team option that in the third year that seems like a obvious, that's not going to happen. But 2 years at 13 million per, like, is this a deal that you attach a pick to and try to get it out? Is this a deal that you waive him and you try to stretch it? Like, what are we looking at here with him? Or are you just going to try to make it work? Like, and I know that there's lots of contingencies again, like Buddy Hield. This is sort of a tradable size contract, but if there's not
They'll
that much
wait.
movement that happens, like what's going to happen with him?
Like Kevin, I think they'll wait. Like they'll wait on these guys that um they don't have to make a decision on. But like I would be surprised if he's in the rotation again. So he might be on the team. But I suspect they're going to try to move on from him, but we'll see how they go about it. My thing is with both Buddy and Kispert here is that It just depends on what they do in free agency. Do they need cap space or do they not need cap space? So that's really more the question. But as for the player, like I have no interest in discussing the player just because he's not going to be on for all intents and purposes. He's not like Buddy Hield, he's not going to be on the team next year. And I think uh, they would prefer to free up that salary slot to re-sign Kaminga and CJ McCollum in particular. So that's where I see Kispert. He's just a contract now, and good luck to him for the rest of his career. But he's not going to be back next year.
Yeah, last year they attached the late first to Terrence Mann in the deal that brought Porzingis back, right? So, and that was he had 3 more years on his contract, I think. I don't know if that's exactly right, but it feels like that was what it was. On this one, I was like that Cleveland pick. Do you attach that to Kispert to get him off your roster, get more cap space, or not? Or can you find some team that needs shooting that will take, say, 2 seconds getting attached to him, as opposed to a first? So I think it really does just depend upon kind of market response. If there's a team out there that needs to add a shooter, I mean, he's an above average shooter, I guess I would say. I know he had a hard time kind of maintaining rhythm with his playing time being up and down. That's a natural thing to kind of deal with. And defensively, he doesn't really fit what they do. It was weird in the first, I don't know, it felt like 10 games after the trade, he was on the floor in the game defensive possessions, and that had me scratching I think all of us kind of scratching our head, like, what are we doing here? That kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think he completely fits what they're doing on both ends of the floor. I think he's a professional basketball player that can shoot. But otherwise he's, a little bit limited. He struggled a little with the 0.5 philosophy and attacking closeouts, not the strongest ball handler, et cetera. He's a pretty strong player, but his lateral, athleticism is limited, and that I think that creates issues on defense. So I think Auntie's got something to figure out there. I don't think he's going to be a guy who would be in the rotation all the time next year. I think a lot of that might depend on how much shooting they can add to this roster. If they lose Gabe, if we talk about Gabe Vincent here in a minute, for example, if they lose some of their shooting through attrition, um, do they have to kind of replenish the shooting in some other form? And I think what they should be looking at is two guys who can impact the floor on both ends, offense and defense, and Kispert is not that.
I just think with Corey, I would prefer they just stretch and wave than attach another pick here. They got away with it because they got a player back in Porzingis. I don't know if there's a Porzingis type of contract, let alone player, that you can attach a Corey Kispert to and get like positive value for the way the Hawks did. So I just think if push comes to shove and they can't find like somebody just to take on the money for a couple seconds, I think they either stretch away or they keep them just again to have the salary slot and like have him be the 12th, 13th man. But I would if I'm on C, I'd probably be more proactive in how I'm managing my cap when the priority is CJ McCollum and Kaminga this offseason. Like figure out what we're doing, what their number's going to be, and then going from there, how to improve the roster while maintaining those guys because they have to add to this roster. Like I think that's something that's quite clear throughout this playoffs. That was shown throughout this playoffs and shown during the regular season where Quinn just cut the rotation. They need more good basketball players, and that's the priority. So I just think I think with Corey, he does have more. He's not as limited as we think he is, but like if there's an opportunity to sign a better basketball player, and all you have to do is get rid of Corey's contract, they're going to do that. That's kind of my takeaway. Then like the overarching point with Corey.
And then the big one for like players on whom you have to make a decision that are actually under contract. What's going to happen with Zachary Rizashe? Have they tipped their hand in how they've used him?
I think it depends on how real you think the comments on exit interview day were. Like, were those authentic? Were those how they really feel about Zach? There's almost two separate ways to kind of work through a thought process here. One is the Hawks are trying to win games down the stretch. The Hawks are trying to win games and make an actual playoff spot and avoid the play-in. And Zach was inconsistent this past season, right? I think the trade really hurt him because I mean Trey knew how to kind of set him up, and they had a little bit of rapport and such last year. And Zach's last about 7 weeks last season, not this season, but last season, he played really good basketball last season, right? This season, it was more of they were trying to really elevate the play of the overall group, and it was hard for him to kind of, once he went to the bench, maintain a rhythm, how to impact the game, all that sort of stuff. And then finally, they just kind of put a lid on it, for the most part, apart from some garbage time here and there. So I mean, the thing that, Brad talks about is Onsi didn't make this pick. Landry made this pick. And so it really does come down to is there a team in the league? If the Hawks, let's say the Hawks said we want to just explore a trade market for Zach. I have no idea if that's a thing, right? Could be a thing, might not be a thing, whatever. But his first overall pick and if you go look at his price tag for next year for a guy who didn't play a whole lot the last 2 months of the season, I think other teams would be scratching their head on, do I want you to attach the draft asset to him to send him to me? That kind of thing. I mean, I still think he, in the right environment and context, can be a helpful player. I think they deprioritized his development this year, and I think that hurt him. I think it would help him to go to a bad team where he could play a lot and have that development be actually prioritized for him. But it's going to be interesting to see once we get to lottery night, and then we get to draft night, and then we get to the first day of when we get to the moratorium for free agency, and kind of see if we're able to kind of detect what things how things are looking for Zach, because I think this was a tough season for him, and I think he tried to be a pro about it and all that stuff. But it is gonna be interesting to see how they prioritize him. But I mean, everyone spoke well of him. He's a good. I mean, everyone will tell you he's a good kid, right? And he's um and all that. But as I said so many times, the Hawks sometimes over-index on culture, and I think that's what they did with that pick. They over-indexed on culture. I'll root for him. I hope he does well and all that sort of stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of decision they make with him.
What do you think, Tyler?
I John Hollinger had a pretty good piece, and it was pretty. He just pointed out pretty plain how Kispert and Risa are both in a similar basket here,
Mhm.
and where it's like, both of them probably won't be back, so it's going to be one or the other. Probably whoever has more value. I could totally see a scenario where both of them are gone, uh, just based on because here's where my thinking is kind of shifted. I just think if I'm the Hawks, I don't care too much about a player's age or if they're a prospect or not, or all that stuff. Like this is about talent acquisition and getting more talent into the building. And like there are only roughly like 120, 150 like good NBA players. Like guys who are like true worthy of 20 plus, 15 plus $1 million a year. Everybody else is relatively replaceable. And so if you're in that replaceable zone, which is unfortunate where Zach is, if I'm the Hawks, I'm like, I got to find a way to either upgrade this, or if I'm going to trade him, maybe look to trade him for a basketball player of a different positional value. I, I, you know, I, I like Zach. I think he can be good in this league. I just think it's going to take him too much time, um, based on what I've seen the last 2 years and where the Hawks are now. Like they're just better. They're such a better basketball team than the basketball team he was drafted to play on. Like that's just the reality of the situation, and it's a sink or swim sport. And like he has not, he's barely paddling, and so like I think he needs a better environment for him to grow as a player. But like for the Hawks, it's just if he was better, he'd play more, and he wasn't better. Uh, he didn't really like the fact of the matter is like we can say he's a better talent than Corey Kispert, but did he play better than Kispert?
Yes,
And I was
I would say yes.
offensively,
Just
not
defense.
offensively, he didn't.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I
but
think if
like
you weigh
his
both,
defense is replaceable. simple. They easily swapped his minutes. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Like, and that's my point. Is like he did nothing to provide the team value on the floor, you know. And like Kispert was a better half court player, and Quinn was like, I want more half court creation because that's what we need. We don't need more defense. I get like we can say that yes, Rich is better than Corey Kispert, but he wasn't better than Mo Gay, and he didn't deserve to play over Mo Gay at any point this season. Not a single point this basketball season did he deserve to play over Mohamed Gay, and he did multiple times until the end of the year when it was winning time. And Quinn was like, I got to get defense. I'm getting Mo Gay out there. Zach was never that good. Zach was never that good. And quite frankly, Ace is better than him offensively right now. He just is. And that's the reality of the situation. And to me, I'm like, all right, you already got lapped by two guys who are in your age range, your prospect range. There's probably not a space for you on this team. So like that's where my thought process is shifted where I'm like, I suspect that Ricochet for both parties probably want to break here. But like I think he would be smart to cut his losses here because like they're not like if he's on the team, they wouldn't pick up his rookie scale option. He makes too much money. He makes too much money, and this team is trying to win a title at this point. Like they've gone from make the playoffs to we want to be contenders. And if Zach's not good enough for the amount of money he's making, then you got to cut bait and look elsewhere. Why? And so it'll be interesting to see what they get for him because I don't know where his value is in this league. But like you can both be high on Zach and believe in him as a player, but there's no denying how disappointing he was this season. Like, there's no denying it, especially where he came from last year to this season. It felt like, in many ways, he took a step back in a lot of areas, at least offensively. Defensively, he absolutely grew, but when you compare it to Mo Gay, compare his defense to Mo Gay, is like it's not close.
Yeah.
And I saw I saw the improvement with Asa on offense throughout the year. Like Asa, day one was knew what to do in the half court. I can't say the same for Zach. Like I cannot. Who would you like if you're asking me who would I rather have in the corner right now between Zachary Ricochet and Asa Newell? I'd rather have Asa Newell because it's not just about shooting when it comes to being a good offensive player. It's about how you deal with the 0.5, how you attack closeouts. Asa is leagues better than Zach is right now, and they're the same age. And to me, I'm like, all right, it's we got to prioritize some stuff because if we're not prioritizing Zach, we got to prioritize other players. There's only a finite amount of minutes to go around with prospects, and I want Asa to get those minutes that Zach got, and I want Mo to get those minutes that Zach got because Mo like it. Like if you ask me, if you swap Zach's minutes for Mo's, the Hawks would have won more games this year. Like the games that where Mo got DNP, you put Mo into that slot where Zach played, they'd have been better. And that's just the honest truth. And so that's where I'm like, I'd be pretty surprised if Zach is still on this team going forward. I felt that I pretty much have felt that way since Quinn has cut the playing time. It went beyond because it even when he played well, Quinn wasn't playing him. That says a lot to me. Like, it's just like they don't like what they're seeing in practice, how he looks next to his teammates. So I think if Quinn's going to be here going forward, I just don't see any situation where he and Zach can coexist anymore because the trust is just not there.
Yeah, Zach's representatives are not right now trying to find a team where expectations are lower and where development is prioritized. That's what they absolutely should be doing for Zach right now. Whether it's Washington or Utah or Memphis or whatever other tanking teams are out there that where expectations are going to be low for a year or two, and he's going to actually be able to play and get prioritized more than he can be in Atlanta. Because the Hawks, they want to win 50 games next year. Like they want to elevate this roster and be a serious team next year, right? They know that they underachieved the last 3 games against the Knicks. We rehashed that. We don't need to do a postmortem on that again. But his representatives should be finding a team that will say, yeah, we'll play him, and we will give him the opportunity to play. on a team that's trying to win 50 plus games, that opportunity is just never going to manifest for Zach. And so his representative should be, and I'm sure they asked permission from the Hawks organization to start placing calls to other organizations. That back channeling happens all the time anyway. But there has to be a team out there that we're just like, yeah, yeah, we'll give him a chance. But will that team make you attach 2 seconds to him to send him out, or I don't know how to evaluate what the other team's true ask would be around that.
Yeah, I think Tyler gave away what I was going to bring up, which is that they're really near the end of his rookie deal now, right? This is going to be his third season. They've already picked up an option to get the third season under contract, and then he's only potentially under contract for one more.
Right. And
They got to
it's
make
and it's
that
stepping up,
decision
and it's stepping up each
fast.
year.
You got
It's
to make
stepping up.
that decision in October before you even know, like, is it going to be better for him this year, right? If you want to bet on Zach, you have to commit to him for 17 million for the 27-28 season. And you've got to do that before he really even steps on the floor for next season.
Yep.
And I don't think they're going to do that, right? Like just by virtue of him being a number one pick, the salary is huge.
Yep.
And for that fourth year, with it being 17 million, like, and you have to commit to it before you really see what the product is. That's rough. Like, I'm sure the Hawks want him in the discussion at media day, from Buddy Hield, from Zachary himself. They're talking about how, after he goes and visits family, they want him in the United States this summer. I've heard that from, other places as well.
Yeah.
They want him here working out, and I'm sure that's, something they could drive up his trade value. They might throw him into summer league, maybe even, so that you can see what it looks like with the ball in his hand. But to make that big of a decision for that much money without really getting to see what it might look like next year, and after Quinn really cut him down to size this year, like, it seems very unlikely.
Yeah, you watch him play defensively, the processing is there. Like he's a very high level processor on defense. He's better on the ball. Low man, he gets killed. Right. As a rebound, he tried way harder as a rebounder this year. He tried a lot harder as a rebounder this year. I wouldn't give him credit for that. On offense, it's still more of jab step back to the 3-point line. Can I get past the defender in front of me? Am I strong enough to do that? There's just a lot of kind of just intermittent process that on offense. And I know, like I said last year, Trey simplified things for him, made it easier. The Hawks don't have like a high level point guard on this roster right now. That's not a thing that they have right now, right? And so that made Zach's job just that much harder on offense. But anyway, I'm gonna root for him, but I completely think his reps should be finding a lower stress, lower pressure team for him to play on that will prioritize his development. The key is, will that team feel like he's worth the cost of his contract in year 3? That's a big fork in the road around that decision point.
I mean, a lot of those
I
teams
mean,
have more short-term financial flexibility to do that sort of thing. So I don't think that they would balk just
Yeah,
on,
like Utah has a ton of cap space, like
yeah.
a ton, right? The Wizards now they get Trey. Don't know what happens with him. Does he
Oh,
opt
right.
in next year? What happens to AD, etc. Even like Brooklyn has a ton of cap
Right.
space, right? So there are teams out there that could, I think he can help where the expectations are lower. And I think that's what his representatives should be trying to find, is a place where there's room for him to be invested in and have his development be prioritized.
I don't know that I
and
want to.
just
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say it's just the state of the NBA tank today. Like these prospects, these draft picks, like there's no guarantee anymore. Even if you're a lottery pick at this point, like the talent, there's just so much talent in the league, man. It's tough. Like again, Asa Newell couldn't see the floor this year for a good team, not a great team. This was a good team, but there was no room for Asa to play. And I thought towards the end, Asa absolutely could have helped this team win some games.
I agree.
Full stop. And so I just think I just think like it's just the you only have and combined with what they're going to do with this lottery pick, combined with I suspect Kaminga's going to be back next year, whether they re-sign him or again the contract. There is value in having a contract during the year as well.
Right.
So
Yep.
I just think Ricochet's role is getting squeezed and squeezed more. And he got like to me, it's just the reality is I just think Asa Newell's a more impactful player because he's a better rebounder, particularly on offensive rebounding, better finisher. And while he's not as good a three-point shooter as Zach is, he's way better. He's a way better ball handler, just
Yep.
significantly better,
Well,
and
the other thing you see when Asa plays is he's not scared of anything.
nope,
He
does not
attacks.
play.
He attacks. So I mean, and that is what you want. And for a guy his age, I mean, his offensive processing blew me away. Like I know he didn't play a ton for the Hawks this year, but man, the 0.5, I have the shot, I don't have a shot, put the ball on the floor, kick it to get a paint touch, kick it out. Like it was all there. Like it was all there the whole season, right? And it just blew me away. Now defensively, asking he and Mo to play the five when KP couldn't play, that was a tough ask. But I'll say he tried. He tried, in that sense. But yeah, the offensive processing just, I mean, the summer league, like just, I mean, I was there for all their summer league games last summer, and it blew my mind, like how decisive he was with the basketball in his hands. So that dude has a bright future. He in my mind, he better be in the rotation next year, all season long.
Yeah,
If the backup
agree.
four, that's fine. If he's playing 20 minutes a game or whatever the number is, that's fine. That dude's going to be good. Ace is going to be good.
Yeah, and this is kind of what my thought process as well. Like you watch him in the G League, and he was basically in the Jalen Johnson role, and he looked good doing it. And so to me, I'm like, I want that guy in the rotation. Uh, Combined with like, I think the jumper is real. Combined beyond whether the jumper, the level of efficiency with the jumper is the fact that he's not afraid to shoot it. Like he's going to shoot it off the catch. If you don't have, and he'll shoot over a contest too. And like as a 20-year-old, that moved me a lot, considering his size as well. Like that's going to be massive for the
Yep.
Hawks going forward.
Uh,
And I think he adds an element of I think the most important thing of the game. These NBA teams are starting to realize that the possession battle is like the single most important thing.
yeah.
Um, you win the possession battle, you give yourself a great chance to win every night, regardless of how well or poorly you shoot. And like Asa is a great offensive rebounder, and so like I just think that's another factor where Zach is more. I can totally see the Hawks. Like to me, somebody made the point that the Hawks are going to want to have lineups where Onyeka's playing the four and Jalen's playing the three, and I just think it just kind of coalesces to the fact I think the Hawks in general want to be a bigger basketball team going forward. We saw with the Knicks when they were bigger, the Hawks had no real answers for the fact that the Knicks were just bigger than they were. And so,
Yep.
like, I think going forward, this offseason is going to be about getting size. And so, when you have somebody like Asa who's skilled as well, that's a major plus. That helps you with lineup versatility, where you can throw him and Kaminga out there on the floor together. Like, that's something I'm really interested to see next year, considering how good of a process of the game Asa is already.
You mentioned that, I think it was Glenn who said that, putting Asa at the five when Kristaps couldn't go put him in a more difficult spot. But I think he struggled a little bit with defensive processing, regardless of which spot he was at.
Agreed.
When he went to the G League, they made, I think first of all, I think his defensive processing got better. He was getting reps. And, I think when you see him at the NBA level again with regularity, it's going to be way better than what you saw before. But they did make a point of, playing Bashir Jihad at center so that Asa was getting reps, further out on the perimeter. They wanted him guarding threes and fours and, having to defend in space. And so, hopefully he gets that end of it. But I like all the things that Tyler said when you're talking about his offense and his offensive rebounding and his shooting, like I believe in all those things. Like that's,
Yep.
I think that the two question marks are defense and then just, the strength to hold up under physicality.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, like this year when he had to play the five in some matchups, it was brutal ask for him. And he tried. I mean, he went out and did his best. He tried. I think he'd say he has to get stronger. For sure that he's young and 19, 20-year olds. That's where they are. So, but like I said, the offensive processing, even in summer league, just absolutely blew me away. Like completely blew me away. On defense, it's can we give him positional certainty? Like you're going to be our four. We're not going to play you a center. Unless the other team goes really, really small and they don't have a center on the floor, we don't have a center on the floor. That might work. That might be fine. But he doesn't have the experience to uh, communicate and organize. He doesn't have that experience as a rookie. You just don't come to the league with that experience at all. Can they play him, 4 or 5 summer league games this year and let him go out and try to organize and try to communicate, try to anchor and those sorts of things in Utah and in Vegas? It'll be interesting to see if that's something that they kind of throw him into. We'll see.
I think they will almost certainly. I mean, I don't know the number of games, but
Right.
it seems like it has to. In fact, I think we asked him at media day, and he said, "Yeah, I'm playing in summer league." I think he kind of qualified it a little bit because he hadn't gotten the final word, but I think he kind of knew that he was headed to play in summer league.
Yeah.
All right, so Tyler, way back when in this episode, said, "I think Kuminga's coming back," and then you say Asa should have a role in the rotation next year. Is there a spot for Mo Gay? Tyler?
Probably not. No, not when if everybody's theoretically healthy. No, but Moge is good value for what the Hawks need him to be right now, which is be the 11th, 12th man. If there's injuries involved, you can trust him defensively, and then offensively, like you got to work through the issues. But ideally, the Hawks have multiple centers. Like they got to go. I think that's something
Three.
that's quite clear.
Three. Not one, three.
They have to have. They
Four.
have to have. They have to have 4 like real centers, and 3 of them got to be good enough to play in a playoff rotation. Where it's like, ideally, somebody either Jock Landale or somebody as good as Jock Landale is your third center. Because to me, I just overall they have to play bigger. They got to play. They have to have lineups where they have more mass on the floor, consistently on the floor. Even though again they found magic with the 3 guard lineups. The Knicks kind of showed that that's not going to work.
Yeah,
It's just not going to work.
they broke it. Knicks broke them.
Yeah. So and I think the Hawks know that. I think the Hawks know that. So like to me, they've got to get more bigger bodied players. So it's good that they have somebody like Kuminga kind of quasi on contract. They have Mo Gay as your 10th, 11th man. You have Asa already on the roster. Now, how do we add to this, to our big depth? Like, how do we add to this? What type of bigs are we looking for? Like, are we looking for offensive rebounders? Are we looking for rim protectors? Are we looking for drop bigs, lob threats, shooters? Like, what are we looking for? We got to get these guys in the building. Ideally, they're all pretty massive, can hold up physically at the 5, because that's what killed the Hawks this year. Flat out, like they just didn't have enough physicality at the 5 when injuries hit. They only ever had 2 centers. They only had 2 centers for what, 20 odd games, 25-ish, however long Landell was healthy for. And combined with Porzingis, it was probably less than half the year, and so it's just like you can't win like that. And ideally, like I said, they want to me with Okongwu's growth as a shooter, and I think the Hawks should want to push Okongwu more offensively. They need to get him at the 4. They need to get Jalen at the 3 so he can have more physical advantages. But that's maybe a topic for another day. Jalen's got to buy in more defensively if he's going to play more out on the perimeter. But like that's the pathway to contention. Even though the 3 guard lineup was beautiful and it worked magic, the pathway to winning a title is to be the bigger, more physical team with skill. And they have that with Jalen's skill set, they can do that. With Jalen and Okongwu's skill set in particular, they have the ability to do that, but it has to be the right type of thing. It can't be, you know, uh so it's going to be a fun offseason to see how they fill that hole and like what they do, whether it's through trades or free agency.
Yep. Yeah, and you look around the league, there are teams that are going to get squeezed and pushed up on the apron and pushed up on the tax. There's reporting around Denver. Can they keep Aaron Gordon and pay Peyton Watson? Like Peyton Watson's a restricted free agent. Jamal Murray, can they afford him? I'm the world's biggest Jamal Murray fan. What he gave them defensively on that title run was crazy to me, but he paid for it physically, and he's a diminished athlete now, not worth his contract in my view. So there, I mean, Onsi's going to look around the league like who's getting pushed up to the apron, who's getting pushed up to the tax, and who do they have to move, and how can I pounce on that opportunity to get a good player from a team that can't afford to keep that good player anymore. That's what he did last year. KP didn't work out. Other moves did work out. The trade at the deadline, I think, really helped the team that won a ton of games. But there are teams getting with RFAs that are getting squeezed. They can't afford everybody. And that is where you kind of are the shark in the following the chum around like, can you afford to keep that guy? That is the play. That's how the league works now, and that's what Ansi I think will focus on.
Right.
Yeah, and
So,
that goes to the point about Kispert, Buddy Hield, Reese Shea, all of them. Like
Yep.
it's going to be opportunistic what the Hawks do. It's not going to be whatever Ansi does with those guys. It's going to be on
it's
Ansi's
happening later.
turn.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I guess we say goodnight, Bob.
How about
Good night, Bob.